How do you grade a top six that never actually fully played together? I'm not entirely sure, but I'm going to try my best here.
Artturi, Lehkonen! Colorado has won the Stanley Cup!
That's right, there was not a single game this year where the Avs' full top six played together because of Gabe Landeskog. And while there was a stretch of the season where you knew he was going to be out, he was expected to return at some point, and he just never did. You can have those conversations about how it was handled. I'm not going to cover that in this video. I will talk about it in a future grading video when I grade the Avs front office and team as a whole. But in this one, we're just treating it as Gabe Landeskog is out and nothing more than that. We're grading the players the Avs had that played, and that's it. But even with the players that they had, injuries ran rampant through the Avalanche this year. At times, of their top six that they actually had, only one of them was healthy, that being Mikko Rantanen by himself. So it still remains hard when you have multiple players missing 15, 20, 25, 30, sometimes more than that games. Certainly in the regular season, with that context, what the Avs top six did was pretty impressive. We can jump right in here at the top. Let's start with Mikko Rantanen, the best goal-scoring season in Avalanche history. Not just that, but Mikko was doing it on his own at times. There was a stretch in December where he was literally the only Avs player that could score a goal. When MacKinnon was out of the lineup, he was single-handedly driving the Avs offense, and when MacKinnon was in the lineup, he was often put on the second line to drive that line himself. Over the years, Mikko has often been called a product of Nathan MacKinnon, which most Avs fans know isn't true, but if there was any doubt left, this year put that to rest. And for as great a year as Mikko Rantanen had, Nathan MacKinnon was probably better. His first 100-point season, and he does it in a year where he misses 11 games and still gets over 110 points. A career high in nearly every offensive statistical category. And as a guy who is already considered a top 5 player in the world, he somehow continues to get better. With a fully healthy season, you're talking about a player who probably reaches into the 120s for point totals, which is pretty lofty territory. And the guy's probably never going to win an MVP because Connor McDavid is just unfair, but Nathan MacKinnon truly has become an absolute centerpiece to the NHL. The Avs probably don't even come close to winning the Central Division without Nathan MacKinnon this regular season. And when you're looking at Mikko and Mac individually, they both get A's. There's no doubt about it. You don't even have to think about that. But we're grading the top six as a whole. For the sake of this graphic, I threw Lehkonen on the top line with MacKinnon and Rantanen. I know those guys didn't play together every game. At times, they didn't play together at all. Just had to throw them together. But that first line wing spot really saw a rotation of all of these guys. Lehkonen played there. You saw Nichushkin play there. You saw Erod play there at times. Part of this is because of the injuries, but it was just a rotating slot of these top six guys. And honestly, in the case of Lehkonen, I think you have to be very happy with what you got out of that guy this year. That's 51 points in 64 games. That is a very high rate of production, including a 20-goal season, the first of his career. For a guy who needed to prove he could really be in a top six this season, Lecky absolutely did that. He probably shot a little bit better than you can expect he will for the rest of his career, but he did a lot of other things well, playing off and around the better players in the top six. He can be that do-everything type of guy for you here in Colorado. Confidently locking him into a top six role gives the Avs a good amount more flexibility with where they want to put and place guys. It allows them to flip Nichushkin. It allows them to move Erod around the lineup a little bit because Lecky was so consistent. When you move on to these second line guys, you really still have no complaints with this regular season. While things will change when we get to the playoffs, for the regular season, Compher filled the second line center role just fine. A 52-point season is perfectly quality there. You really saw Compher explode in his assist numbers, 35 assists, nearly doubling his career high. While at the end of the day, I think ultimately he's still not the right choice for 2C, he can fill that role if you need him to, at least in the regular season. Nichushkin, when healthy, was a monster for Colorado, nearly scoring at a point-per-game pace. On the ice, the contract he signed with the Avalanche is looking like it's going to be good value. His only problem this season, in the regular season, was lingering injury that he had to battle through at times during the year. Especially in a year where the Avs were missing Gabe Landeskog as a bigger body, someone that could play quality defense in that top six and kind of hold things together, do the dirty work. Val Nichushkin filled that role, and he filled it excellently. The only guy you wanted more out of in this group of top 6 was Evan Rodriguez, and even he wasn't terrible. In the first half of the year, he was producing and being effective in that group for Colorado. And even with his slowdown in the second half, he was on pace for a career high this season if it wasn't for the games that he missed. In a similar way to JT Compher, he's probably more of a middle 6 player than a true second line guy, a guy who can fill that role when you need him to, but can't really do it full time. But especially for what the Avs paid for him at $2 million, he was more than worth his contract. If you're planning on him being an option for you longer term at second line, he has to produce more, but I really don't think that is or should be the Avs' plan going forward. You also had a myriad of other players play in the top 6 across the course of the season. Dennis Malgin, you had Matt Nieto up there at times after they traded for him. Lars Eller played games up there. Some guys that I can't even name because the rotations were ridiculous because of injuries. So it's hard to grade all of that as a true top 6. But when you're looking at these players, I think you have to be very happy with what they accomplished. Production that helped them win the Central Division. I'm giving the Avs top 6 in the regular season an A- grade. They fall a little bit short of a true A because of Erod's lack of production at times and just general injuriness stunting the consistency of auxiliary pieces in that top 6 plenty. And then you have the playoffs, which is a weird one to grade. At the top, the story for MacKinnon and Rantanen remains the same. Both of them individually played fantastically, did what they needed to do. They helped carry the Avs and are pretty much the only reason that series went 7 and came close to an Avs win. Honestly, you can throw Artturi Lehkonen in with that group as well. Had 6 points in 7 games for Colorado in that playoff series. Erod, I think you're okay with as well. 5 points in 7 games in that series. Only 1 goal, but found a way to be effective in the Avs top 6, especially when you had some other guys that weren't. And then you have the Val Nichushkin situation, which I really don't know how to handle here. In the 2 games he played, he was good and effective for the Avs. You liked what you saw on the ice. I just don't know how to grade what happens off the ice in this series. Obviously, the situation he's in with personal reasons, whatever it is not great. You don't love seeing your player just disappear in the middle of the playoff series and no longer play for you. And for what it's worth for people asking, I don't have all the details, but I can confidently say there will be no long-term anything from this. Val will be back and playing with Colorado next season, so at least there's that. But you can also definitely make an argument that whatever went down with Val cost the Avs this series. 1 more quality player, 1 more quality play, another goal from your top 6 guys, and there's a good chance the Avs beat Seattle. Ultimately, in my grade, I decided to ignore the off-the-ice stuff and treat this the same way as I would treat an injury. Yes, it's context, but it's something that certainly from the Avs top 6, it's out of their control, even if it was in Nichushkin's control. So understand that when you see the grade and just keep that in mind. And then you have the one predictable problem for the playoffs in the Avs top 6. JT Compher as your 2C just wasn't good enough. Just 2 points in 7 games and got caved in on a nightly basis. That hole in their lineup clearly was not solved, and it was apparent. Again, there's a million things that cost the Avs this series, but 2C was certainly one of them, and you could make an argument that it was their biggest problem in the series. Personally, I think that was more their depth forwards than the 2C spot itself, but the 2C spot certainly contributed to that problem too. It is what it is, and I actually do think the Avs top 6 played pretty well on the whole, but JT Compher definitely dragged them down. With that, I'm still giving the Avs top 6 a B grade in the playoffs because the top of their lineup was just so good. If you didn't have MacKinnon and Rantanen in that series, Seattle probably wins in 5. 4 of your top 6 players playing really well should really be enough to get you through a series. It's the other problems that kind of dragged you down. If you wanted to give them a lower grade, a B-, even all the way down to a C, I think you could make an argument for that, but I just feel really comfortable with the Avs top guys having given everything they could. We still have the defense and the team as a whole to grade out this offseason. Keep an eye for those videos in the coming week. Thank you for watching this grade season review. I am Rudo, and can we just get to the draft and free agency already?